네, 안녕하십니까. 저는 아마존웹서비스코리아에서 금융을 총괄하고 있는 노경훈이라고 합니다. Hi, I am Kung-Fun No, head of AI and machine learning in AWC Korea. First of all, thanks for your time in this unprecedented situation. Today, I will be presenting how AI is impacting on finance industry with the cloud. And my colleague, Craig Stars, the APJ head of AI and machine learning, will jump in for the details and global references. These days, every company talks about digital transformation and AI. So there are three motivators to talk about that. The first one is top-down approach. The leadership recognized that they need a digital transformation and AI to survive in the market. So those technologies are inevitable. For example, like JP Morgan Chase, the finance company, in 2016, they announced that they are a technology companies. So now, JP Morgan has 53,000 engineers, including 35,000 developers. There is no doubt to call them as a technology company for now. The second one is new competitors. New competitors are emerging in traditional market. For example, like Google is selling car insurance. Fintech companies provide like a banking service and credit card service, which is traditionally dominated by big companies, big banks. The third one is new technologies like cloud. So new technologies make what we thought impossible to possible these days, like self-driving cars. And AI is most popular areas. So already in 2019, in various areas, enterprise customers are using AI for these areas, like customer experience, business operation, decision-making, innovation, and competitive advantages. So there are a lot of areas AI and machine learning can be beneficial, like image recognition, speech, text, search, like fraud detection, forecasting are most popular scenarios in financial industry. Like today, I use my credit card in Busan. It is very hard to use your credit card in Singapore in an hour. So AI detected and alarm you those fraud. And in stock market, stock market, AI is forecasting price and trend. So actually, AI is selling your stock asset instead of you or on behalf of your decision. There are a lot of preparation to apply AI to your business. There are built-in algorithms like notebooks, experiment, and etc., including IT infrastructure. So these are benefits AI and machine learning can provide. Then why haven't we used it then? It's because the implementation of AI is extremely difficult for a single company. To do AI analysis, you need a data expert, data analyst, data scientist, like IT manager, IT division, or IT infrastructure, and then a lot of software to visualize it. If you plan AI project in your company, at least you need several $7 million. So that's why people it's hard to try at the first. And if you build a long algorithm for your business, it failed, who can be responsible for those like a several $7 million investment? That was a problem. But if you use cloud, pre-built services like AWC is providing, can you imagine like one person, a startup can have a same AI capability with the biggest company in the world, like gigantic companies? Then it is very powerful. So those fintechs and startups embedding traditional companies, and traditional companies is also want to use their weapon, cloud, for their AI practices. So by far, one of the biggest hurdle for AI and cloud was regulation. AWS is working with the government to remove it and to encourage companies to use AI and new technologies. We achieved a lot of certification. So recently, we achieved ISMS, KISMS, and we passed FSI-led CSP assessment. So I can dare to say there is no blocker to use cloud for AI for finance customers in Korea. So, so far, I delivered the high-level messages. I would like to introduce Craig Stoss, like APJ head of AI and machine learning, for detail and references. Craig, over to you.
Hi, my name is Craig. Thank you so much for coming and joining us today. I would love to be there in person, but of course these are very unusual times. So we'll do the best that we can remotely. Earlier, Kung Feng set the stage for us to share why it is that now is the time that more and more financial services companies are moving to AWS and are moving their data, they're moving their applications, and importantly, they're also moving and building their artificial intelligence workloads on the cloud. So now what I'd like to do is go a little bit deeper and share with you specifically what are the big trends that are actually driving these financial services companies to make these investments. So let's talk about the impact of AI on FSI. Probably the biggest investment that we see customers making is improving their customer journeys. And the language that we'll often hear from our customers is wanting to create frictionless customer journeys. Now, there's many ways to do this, but artificial intelligence provides a number of very interesting opportunities. And I want to go through and talk about several of our customers and how they're using AI to really affect that frictionless customer journey. So the first is around onboarding and know your customer. So Coinbase developed machine learning models on Amazon SageMaker to enhance identity verification and fraud prevention. So they use Amazon SageMaker to reduce model training times from 20 hours to 10 minutes, which means that they could run many iterations of their fraud models and could train and could get the real specificity that they needed to be able to have highly enhanced security. Another case that you might find interesting is Credit. So they use a image recognition software that we have called Amazon Recognition. Now, this object and facial recognition helps to match the face of the user with that of his or her ID, and it matches it against a private database. So if everything checks out, the system provides instant loans to individuals who have a verifiable source of income. Now, the next category is around transaction surveillance. So FINRA, which is the Financial Regulatory Authority of North America, they develop machine learning algorithms to detect market manipulation, including spoofing and layering activities. So where a trader places multiple orders with the intent to cancel, it creates the illusion of liquidity. This allows the identification of bad faith actors. FINRA also uses Amazon Comprehend, which is our natural language processing service, to extract names of individuals and organizations and match them to their central registration depository, or a CRD. FINRA then passes the data into a graph database so they can better understand the relationship across the individuals and organizations. So MasterCard you probably know, but NuData you may not. So NuData Security, one of their subsidiaries, they prevent credit card fraud by detecting anomalous activity before a fraudulent transaction occurs. So they use machine learning models. NuData is able to reduce the machine learning development time by about 60%. And you'll see a trend with a number of our customers that when they wanted to build these highly advanced models and it required very specialized hardware, they weren't able to really do this on premise. They weren't able to do it in their data centers, and they definitely couldn't do it at the same scale. So we're seeing an entirely new generation of model building, fraud detection, and again, around this enhanced customer experience happening on AWS. The third is around customer service. So John Hancock uses contact lens, which is an addition we have for Amazon Connect, and it helps predict why customers are calling. So they get a better idea if the call is going to be about a payment, if it's about a claim, maybe a change in life status, and it allows the agents to predict and better serve their customers. Another is Privat Bank. So this is the largest commercial bank in the Ukraine. They launched a biometric payment system called FacePay24. It uses that same image recognition system called Recognition to allow users to pay for purchases by looking at a tablet's camera to verify their identity. The fourth is around personalized recommendations. So Vanguard previously has shared their story about applying machine learning to develop next dollar accumulator. So this is where, given an investor's demographic, their goals, their current investments, the model will recommend the optimal investment vehicles and the allocations. So this gives an incentive for investors to keep coming back to Vanguard and keep investing that next dollar. And so it's really about being able to encouraging the investment of new funds. Now, the final category on this customer journey is around process automation and optimization. So Morningstar, which you may be familiar with because of their ratings, they developed a machine learning model to simulate the decision-making of a research analyst. So they use their past rating decisions and the supporting data that was used to create that rating. Then they built that model to cover funds that the Morningstar analysts don't normally cover. So there's the Morningstar funds, and then there's the whole world of other funds. So what this has allowed is that Morningstar now can rate 6 times more funds than they were able to using only human analysts. And the last customer I'll share is Black Knight. So they built a worker bot called AIVA to streamline the loan process for mortgage origination. AIVA mimics the human process of reading and reviewing forms such as income and asset statements, pay stubs, tax returns, and they use that to anticipate the type of information that should be in each field on the next form that it reviews. So customer journey is, of course, one of the biggest entry points for banks and capital markets to enter into using AI, but it's far from the whole story. In fact, there's many investments, so customer experience being all the way on the right, but there's really 5 different kinds of use cases that we see. Now, let's kind of start over at the left and talk about compliance, surveillance, and fraud detection. So payment fraud detection, which is optimizing the model to provide sufficient protection for the user and the merchant, but not overdoing it where the false positives erode the customer experience. There's also market surveillance, which is using ML to detect market anomalies and other behavioral patterns. Also, identity verification. So again, using machine learning to streamline and enhance the customer onboarding experience while automating the KYC process. The second category here is around document processing. Using machine learning techniques like optical character recognition, or OCR, and natural language processing, NLP, to streamline due diligence and document review processes. Also are able to extract entities, dates, locations from documents and match them with internal databases. Now, the third category is around pricing and product recommendation. This is the ability to develop personalized products, services, and recommendations. So, for instance, when we just heard about Vanguard, being able to use that data and build those models to match a person's goals, their current investments, and the demographics to be able to create optimal investment portfolios. And the fourth category here is around trading and analytics. So applying machine learning to alternative data sets like satellite imagery to predict crop yields or count the number of cars in a parking lot of a department store allows businesses to be able to predict quarterly sales and earnings more effectively. Then there's the opportunity to apply machine learning for sentiment analysis on social media. Now, this is an area that you've probably been hearing about these use cases for quite some time, but with the use of natural language processing and natural language understanding, transcription services, we've really gone to the next level of understanding sentiment. And the last is around predictive analytics. So for example, trying to predict stock loan rates. So there's many different use cases, but again, we see that these are the 5 that really drive banks, insurance company, capital markets to really invest on AI. So you're probably wondering what on earth you're looking at. And so on the left side of this picture, there is a picture of a 1/18th scale car. And what's unusual about it is it's a self-driving car. It's got little cameras in the front. It's got Bluetooth. It's got a processing unit on board, and you can train this thing to drive around a track, and it teaches itself as it drives around the track to get better and better. And as the car makes a little mistake and a reward is given, or the reward is withheld from it, or if it makes a corner really effectively, it's able to continue to learn and train and act more effectively. So this is called the agent, the action, there's the environment, which in this case is the racetrack, and then there's the state, which is every time that it's trying to make a decision, and then if a reward is granted or not. Now, you're probably wondering, why have you started suddenly talking about a self-driving car that you can train? Well, the whole foundation behind a self-driving car in this case is using high-level optimization. And that high-level optimization is most effective by using something called reinforcement learning, or RL. Now, within our service, Amazon SageMaker, it's the only development environment that offers you the ability to build reinforcement learning models. Now, why this is interesting for banks, we run a league which is called the Deep Racer League. And the Deep Racer League, we've been running it for years, and people can come to our events, whether it's at one of our summits or at reInvent, and they're able to participate and compete and train a car using SageMaker, train that car to be able to go out and race against other people. Now, we've transitioned this, and we've actually started to run this Deep Racer program within banks. And one of the banks that we've run this within is DBS Bank, which is the largest bank in Southeast Asia. Now, they've run hundreds of people through this program, and their goal is to run thousands of people through. Now, you may wonder, why would the bank care about going and training their bankers to become race car drivers? So the reason is those exact skills around building optimization models are directly relevant to some of the most complex problems within a bank. Now, for instance, there's the fun of building the self-driving car, but more importantly, it's how does this apply back to learning a skill that previously was really hard to learn, or maybe was only the domain of people who are really deep experts. So, for instance, now, these hundreds of people who work in the institutional banking group are now able to apply this towards other complex optimizations. For example, algorithmic trading. So for those of you who are not machine learning experts, I'll give you just a little bit of an overview of how this works. So the agent, which previously was a car, but in this case is a PPO, is chosen because of the balance between ease of implementation, minimizing the cost function, and lowering the deviation from the previous policy. The algorithm is finding the optimal investment level based on predicted market movements, using states like the open, high, low, close prices, and calculations for risk-adjusted returns. A reward can then be determined for the algorithm. So this episode runs for a set training period, and an optimized RL model is built that can then be used to automate trading, or maybe even to guide a human agent as they're making a decision on how to invest for their clients. So it's a really exciting time for AI. I think we're still scratching the surface of what's going to be possible. As you're looking to move down through your journey and you're looking to affect those frictionless customer journeys, reduce fraud, price risk better, there's really no better time than to consider moving AI, starting to build on AWS, taking advantage of some of that tooling that's available today that maybe just a few years ago wasn't available. And maybe even taking advantage of some of the programs that we are launching, that we run with our banking customers and other financial services customers to really help ease that journey into the cloud to use AI. So with that, I really want to thank you all for coming today. I'm going to go ahead and hand back to Kung Fun. I hope you have a great day and stay safe. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Craig. So already tens of thousands of customers are using cloud for their AI practice just by clicking with a low cost. So finance customers, it is right time apply AI to your business, I can say. Thank you for your time again. Stay safe and stay strong. Thank you.